Hello, 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 hello. Is anyone there? Hello, hello, hello. Hey, this is Warren Redlick. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks to the Vasa Law Firm in Sweden, all my Patreon supporters, link in the description below. Thanks to my YouTube channel members, including exclusive content members and above who get, like Patreon supporters, get early access to some videos. I have a video that will be public on Monday about Rivian. My Patreon supporters and my YouTube channel members have access to that video already. So that's going up. If you want to get early access to my videos, that's an opportunity for you. Please support the channel on Patreon or join as a YouTube channel member at the exclusive content level or above. So, what are we talking about today? Let's talk about SpaceX first. It's Elon week. We're talking about SpaceX. So let's start with, I made a video about this. Elon Musk has been complaining about Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos has been, and his company Blue Origin have been filing complaints against NASA, against SpaceX, related to the Artemis mission to the moon and related to Starlink. And Elon's not happy about it. So if you check my videos, in the last few days, I made a video about Elon Musk versus Jeff Bezos, sort of breaking down a little bit of history of the two of them and what's going on there and what exactly Bezos is complaining about or Blue Origin's complaining about. And I kind of make a pitch to Jeff Bezos to knock it off because I don't think he's making any sense at all. So, next, other piece of news, SpaceX launched a cargo mission to the space station using Falcon 9. Elon tweeted, you can see here, this is the launch, and this is the ship, the booster coming back on the new Shortfall of Gravitas, or a Shortfall of Gravitas drone ship that it landed on. Really nice to see that working out. Everything went well as far as I can see. I think I believe that the Cargo Dragon successfully docked with the space station. There's several ships up there now, including a Crew Dragon. So the Falcon 9 program is going great. Really good to see that. Starbase is coming up. Lots of great stuff happening at Starbase. ERCX Space put this image up of two Starship Super Heavy combos standing next to each other on launch towers and said that was 2023. And Elon responded saying, no, that's 2022. So Elon remains optimistic on time. Things are looking good for Starbase. Really excited about that. Also talked a little bit about catching the booster. I apologize if you're on a phone watching this. It's probably hard to see. But Elon up here, you can just check Elon's Twitter account. He talks about SpaceX will try to catch the largest ever flying object with robot chopsticks. Success is not guaranteed, but excitement is. So that's going to be fun. And I've posted videos before of animations of the launch tower catching the booster as it lands. Elon said in response to NASA spaceflight, they are hopefully going to get their first try with Booster 5. So Booster 4, which is getting ready to launch Starship in an orbital launch where Booster 4 would hopefully do a soft water landing off the coast of Texas, and then the Starship would hopefully do a soft water landing off the coast of Hawaii. They are working on that, but they are not expecting to recover those or try to land the booster with the launch tower being caught by the launch tower. Elon refers to the launch tower and the Starbase area as stage 0. The booster is stage 1. Starship is stage 2. With Falcon 9, there's a booster and there's a second stage. So Elon is referring to the ground level stuff as stage 0. And I do a countdown before starting my live streams. Interesting. I don't know. I don't know if that's a good idea, Johnny, but thank you for the thought. So Astro Elliot asked, how will the arms slide the booster back out to line up with Orbital Pad? The booster comes down and lands and then somehow has to get moved over to the launch pad. And Elon said there will be tank treads on the arms. So that's something that I think that's a development we're going to see fairly soon at Boca Chica at Starbase. And there was this tweet. Somebody saw something on the German Autobahn coming from Austria and said it looks like it's part of a future transport vehicle for Starship to get to the launch pad, and Elon said it's our new crane. So this is a tank tread-like device that the crane will be using. They're going to have cranes. They already have cranes at Starbase. Apparently they decided they need better cranes. You can see the SpaceX logo on the first photo and the second photo over here, if you look at this tweet closer. So this is going to be part of, I think, the new crane that will be helping to move Starships and Super Heavies around. So there's this really interesting tweet and reply from Elon. Trung Fan pointed out an email in 2013 about why Elon wants to keep SpaceX private, which goes into some detail. And Elon said a lot has happened in the past 8 years, which sounds to me like Elon saying no, SpaceX is going public, that SpaceX may be heading for an IPO. Now, my own view has been, look, Starlink spins off as an IPO. It's a cash machine. It's just going to generate money from having all these customers paying $1,000 a year, basically. You get 1 million customers, that's $1 billion a year. Yeah, you get a million customers, that's $1 billion a year. You get 10 million customers, it's $10 billion a year. I think they're getting 100 million customers and $100 billion a year in revenue, make insane profits. Let that spin off on its own. My gut was that Elon doesn't want to subject the Mars project to public investment, to the investment community having any kind of influence over that. He doesn't want to subject it to quarterly deadlines or anything. So I think somehow or other he's going to keep the Mars mission, the Mars project private, while maybe making other parts of SpaceX public. Maybe the launch system itself could be made public, but he has to keep the Mars part of it private, I think. Or maybe he just becomes a customer of it. I don't know what the plan is there, but that was interesting. So that sounds to me like a SpaceX IPO is coming sometime in the future. I don't know. All right, moving on to Starlink. Elon was talking about satellites launching in the next few months. We'll have inter-satellite laser links, so there will no local downlink will be needed. If you think about the Earth as a sphere, right? This is the best I can do for a sphere. And there's different Starlink satellites. What's been happening is, right now, the Starlink satellite has to send its signals up and down directly to a ground station below it. It can't just bounce them off satellites to go around the Earth to reach somebody else. And the future is the satellites will communicate by laser, and you'll be able to go up from Earth and then bounce along and reach somewhere else on Earth and come back down without having to go back up and down every step along the way. Or going up and down to Earth and then traveling on Earth data networks. So Scott Manley, great channel if you want to watch him, says if there's any real difference beyond the lasers about processing. And Elon said, processing is not an issue. The laser links alleviate ground station constraints, so data can go from, say, Sydney to London through space, which is 40% faster speed of light than fiber and a shorter path. So the key point here is that latency, well, there's two key points here, but one key point here is latency is really important. If you can reduce the latency, that's when the time you hit the enter button or click the mouse to the time it's received at the other end by the website or whatever that you're communicating with. If you're able to get the speed of that connection faster, then you reduce latency, and that the computer recognizes your click or your enter button faster. And that matters with some applications like online gaming with playing, 3D shooter, first-person shooter games, and it matters for high-speed stock trading, and there may be other areas where it matters. For us in our daily lives and our daily internet usage, we don't really notice the difference between half a millisecond, between 10 milliseconds and 50 milliseconds, because that's like 50 milliseconds is like a 20th of a second. So for our normal daily lives, we don't really notice the latency being the difference between those two levels of latency, but there are applications where it matters. The other thing Elon said was no need for ground stations everywhere, and that allows the Arctic to have great bandwidth because satellites flying over the Arctic will still be able to communicate by reaching other satellites instead of having to go to ground stations. And it relieves Starlink potentially of the cost of paying for internet backbone services on the ground to some extent. So a lot of reasons why that's a big deal. There was more to this. This was related to Scott's question about the Taliban or other things. And Elon also said, he said that thing about inter-satellite laser links, no local downlink needed, probably active in 4 to 6 months. So it's going to take a little bit of time to get that going. But Elon said data packets do not need to touch regular internet. This is not needing to use internet backbone. The data can flow from user terminal to satellite to user terminal. So basically Starlink forms its own internet backbone. That's pretty impressive. That's an important detail that makes Starlink run more efficiently. And then the last thing was, I love this bit. Michael Sheets, big-time space reporter, says, how does transmitting into a country without a local downlink work on the regulatory side? And Elon said, they can shake their fist at the sky. So the potential point here is there's a country that doesn't want Starlink operating in their country, but somebody smuggles a Starlink satellite antenna into the country, and they start interacting with Starlink. I'm not sure how the country would know that the Starlink antenna is operating. It might be possible, but I believe it's sort of like more of a focused beam, so it's not like you're going to detect the signal from the Starlink satellite up above or from the receiver down below. It's a phased array antenna. I think that may be more focused, so it's not like 5 miles to the side on the ground. You're going to pick that up. Maybe the countries will have some sort of action they'll take against it, but it's not really something they can do to Starlink as far as I know. People brought up China. I think China is going to approve Starlink, and Starlink will agree to some kind of censorship regime to go along with it. That's my guess. I don't know. We'll see what happens there. Another issue with SpaceX. This is fairly recent news. SpaceX is working on building up Starbase and getting ready to do regular launches from Starbase, and environmental groups are raising concerns. I don't know whether they're filing lawsuits, what's happening, but The Guardian carried this big article criticizing what SpaceX is doing, or at least bringing forth the criticism from these environmental groups. And there's this long article here. And Elon talks about the fact that, if something blows up, they're not destroying infrastructure, but environmentalists don't like it because here's all this metal stuff falling out of the sky and it's dangerous to the wildlife and it's dangerous to a huge range of wildlife with rocket debris. So he said the cleanup took 3 months. He thinks this is a danger to the local wildlife. And I think there are other environmental groups, and I certainly understand that, having rockets blow up over this area is probably not good for the local environment. I would, my own take is we got a heck of a lot of coastline in the United States of America. And if a mile or two of coastline in Boca Chica has to suffer a little bit, I don't think it's suffering a lot, by the way, suffering's a little bit, I don't think it's that big of a deal. But I do think and I think the state of Texas is relatively friendly to SpaceX, to business. They're more business friendly, less environmentally focused. So I'm not too worried that SpaceX is going to get iced out by the state government. I think they'll be okay. But just to be aware of it, and I personally believe that Starship may launch more from Canaveral than from Texas. This may be one of the reasons. Canaveral has already sort of established that this is the launch spot, so the wildlife issues have already been resolved, I think. There is wildlife near Cape Canaveral, but it's a military base. They did exemptions. So whether this will face some kind of environmental challenges, there's other problems with southern tip of Texas, not a lot of infrastructure, not a lot of population to support it, not necessarily a place that young engineers in particular, want to live. There's not a lot to do around the area that young engineers might want to do. Canaveral is about an hour from Orlando, Florida, with Disney and Universal Studios and a thriving population. There's a lot going on in Orlando. There's a whole community around Canaveral known as the Space Coast, so there's a lot of support for the industry there. So anyway, that's the SpaceX part of the today's video. I'm going to move on to Patreon Q&A. Again, thanks to the Vasa Law Firm in Sweden, all my Patreon supporters. Links in the description below. If you want to support this channel on Patreon, if you want your questions answered in the Patreon section of the video, if you're not interested in the Q&A, skip ahead. You can follow, and you're watching later, you can follow the yellow box down to when I start talking about Tesla. But there's links to support the channel on Patreon in the description below, and there's a link to support the Patreon in the description below, and there's a link to join the YouTube channel in the description below. So let's get that off the screen. So Mark asks, could Tesla have in mind using a gigafactory in India for manufacture of the new $25,000 model primarily for export? I don't think primarily for export is the goal. I think if they wanted to manufacture primarily for export, then China is probably a better place to manufacture for export than India. I'm not saying no, I'm not saying it's impossible. I think there's a lot of good things about India, and I made a video this week, I think, Brazil versus India, where would Tesla be likely to locate the next gigafactory that's not in a current location of those two? I think Giga Osaka, Giga Japan is the most likely next location, but India has a very large population, just happens they're very poor. Brazil has a medium-sized population, smaller than India, but much wealthier population. I think the car market in Brazil is more vibrant than the car market in India. Brazil can export to Argentina, Chile, Colombia, other countries that have reasonable economies. So I personally think Brazil's a better bet, but Tesla's been pretty clearly reaching out to India doing something, so we'll see what happens there. So I don't see it as manufacturing in India primarily for export. They're going to manufacture, if they're going to manufacture in India, the primary goal is to manufacture for India, a place with 1.3 or 1.4 billion people. Martin asks, what features could Tesla possibly strip out if they wanted to produce a $15,000 car in developing countries? That's kind of a good question. I don't think there's much they can strip out because Elon's focus is to build the safest car possible. There's not really a whole lot of expensive features in the car. They're not going to get rid of self-driving. They're not going to get rid of the cameras, I suppose. And they can't really get rid of the HVAC because they need that to manage the battery temperature. So I don't really see the opportunity to make it less expensive that I can see by stripping out parts. I think it's just make it more efficiently. If you make it in a low-wage country, maybe you find a way of getting low cost of capital investment. But yeah, I don't think it's going to work that way. Damien has a bunch of questions. Damien says, should Tesla buy BYD's Blade batteries to lock up supply for Tesla and get access to BYD computer chips they make themselves? I'm going to go with pretty much no on that. I don't think Tesla has a shortage. BYD makes lithium iron phosphate batteries. I don't think Tesla has a shortage of lithium iron phosphate batteries. CATL makes them in high volume. They seem to be working with other suppliers for lithium iron phosphate batteries as well. I think they're going to have no problem getting those batteries. And I don't think BYD's chips are necessarily the right chips for what Tesla needs. I do think Tesla is probably working on a new strategy regarding chips after facing this problem with the supply chain. We'll see what they do. Damien also asked, did the U.S. make a mistake in banning China from receiving chip-making equipment? If China made the computer chips, would there be a shortage or a glut for chips today? I have not heard about the United States banning China from receiving chip-making equipment. I think if China wants to make chip-making equipment, they can do it. I don't think they need our help with that. Damien says, Tesla makes batteries, buys batteries. Goal is 3 terawatt hours. Do I think Tesla's goal of 3 terawatts of battery use in 2030 is too low? I don't think their goal was 3 terawatts of use. I think their goal was producing 3 terawatts of the 4680 cells or something similar by 2030. I think Tesla will use more than 3 terawatt hours. That's how I read it. I think 6 terawatt hours is a more likely goal that they're shooting for. If they only make 3 terawatt hours, it's still great. That's a lot of production. That's a lot of revenue. And Damien asks, what do I think of the iron-based batteries? Would I consider one of these iron batteries if it was in the Tesla you just bought? I think that, so the Tesla I bought has more range than the iron-based batteries. The Tesla I bought originally had 310 miles of range. It's probably down to around 295 miles of range after 70,000 some miles. For those newsflash, for those who didn't know, I bought a Tesla Model 3. I'm going to pick it up. I didn't pay for it yet. I'm started paying for it. I made a deposit, whatever, but I'm going to go pick it up from Omar Kazi, which I'll talk about later. So I'm going to be talking about that in the miscellaneous section, so I'll cover it then. So the iron-based batteries that they're putting in the new Tesla Model 3 Standard Range Plus, I think it has 253 miles of range. You get more useful range out of that 253 miles because you can charge to 100% with lithium iron phosphate, where you try not to charge your nickel-based batteries all the way to 100%. But, you know, for a long trip, it's not crazy to charge your batteries up to 90 or 95%. So I don't think it's that much of a difference. And I'm still going to have more range in a 3-year-old Model 3 with some significant miles on it than I would in a brand new lithium iron phosphate-based vehicle. And I suspect that my vehicle might be a little lighter weight as well. And the last question from Damien is, when is an alpha model prototype going to be ready for the Warren Podcar that you can show off? Are you getting any of the design work done in China? Will you consider getting any production done in China? So the alpha prototype, let's see, I have engineers working on designing the chassis. I have actually paid people to do chassis design. Merch at elonbits.com. The water bottle, t-shirt. T-shirt is in the top of the chat. You go to the chat window at the top of the chat. You can buy this t-shirt. This is not the most popular t-shirt, but it's kind of cool. It shows different versions of Starship. I'm a big fan of this shirt. I wear it a lot. I think I have 2 of them. I think I have one that's black on white. So we're working on the design work. The design work is going to be done here. I don't see. I've hired people in different countries to do the design work. Not I initially hired someone in Boca Raton to do the design work. I moved on to hiring a few other people in other countries to do the design work. At some point, we're going to build the prototype. We're doing the chassis design right now. We'll do the powertrain next. Somebody told me I should do powertrain first and chassis design next, but I think I know. I have a rough idea of the powertrain design. And once we have... Oh, thank you, Planeta Tierra, for your support. I think that means planet Earth. Planeta Tierra is Spanish for planet Earth in English. So, should have the chassis design done by early October. Should have the powertrain design done maybe November. Because I don't think the powertrain design will be as complicated. I already pretty much know what I want. And then we're going to move on to building the... Finding somebody to build the alpha prototype is going to be challenging. I think I have someone in mind. We'll see whether he can do it. If not him, I have a couple other options. But I wanted to have this solid design before I went to somebody to build it. So, all right. Last Patreon question. And no, I'm not planning to produce in China. I'm planning to produce in the United States. I wouldn't rule out building them in China, but I haven't figured out yet what the odds of us getting to that point. Like, there's a 95% chance this is going to fail, if not more. Sorry, for those who don't know, I'm starting up a small EV company. A small company that makes small EVs. So a small EV company. Maybe I'll call it small EV company. You know, the first round of production will probably be 100 units, and it doesn't make sense to build that in China. You know, if it succeeds, if it works, then yeah, we'll build at scale and we'll see. But I'm hoping we can keep the design simple enough that it's easy to build in the US, and we'll just build in the US. I don't think there's gonna be that much advantage to building in China. I think the shipping costs from China is probably going to outweigh the extra cost of building. So, Ted asks about my video. I made a video, I think I published it yesterday, about driving the Model Y on autopilot. A friend of mine, Brian Smith, he's linked in the description of that video. He lives on the other side of the lake behind my house. Brian let me borrow his Model Y for the day. I drove up to Sebring, Florida to visit my mother. And I spent about 6 hours on Navigate on Autopilot. Interesting experience. So check out the video. Check out my channel to watch that video. It's like a 25-minute video. I think it's a pretty good video. It's doing well. Ted asked if I think I might be too quick to judge the pros and cons with such limited driving experience. Hey, it was first impressions of a long drive. I mean, I've driven a Model 3 and a Model Y before, including this particular Model Y. No, I don't think it's... So I had a few complaints about the experience. I think people are overstating my complaints. I think FSD or Navigate on Autopilot works really well. I think the problem is the nags, which are probably imposed on Tesla by regulatory forces rather than necessarily the choice Tesla would make. I'm not faulting Tesla for it. I think what they're doing is amazing. Ted says on my return, I'm going out to California to buy the Model 3 and bring it back. He says try driving half a day or a whole day each with autopilot without, and evaluate your fatigue and comfort levels and driving enjoyment. You know, we'll see what happens. I think Omar's going to make the drive with me. We're going to talk about that in miscellaneous later. So let's move on. Let's go to Tesla stuff. I didn't manage a quiet doghouse. That's correct, Justin. I said there's a high likelihood I'm going to fail, Justin. Okay, so the Tesla news, probably the biggest Tesla news for Tesla investors, is that Elon emailed the company. Apparently, this is an internal email within Tesla. Tasmanian had tweeted that ARK Invest confirmed their base case for Tesla at $3,000 a share. And Elon said, if we execute really well, I agree with ARK Invest. Now, some people are interpreting that as Elon is saying the company's going to be worth the stock price is going to go to $3,000 a share. Maybe he means that's the base case. And, you know, what ARK Invest is really saying is they think it's going to be worth more than $3,000 a share. $3,000 a share is the base case. And there's a really strong chance it's going to be worth more than that. So that was a little bit of news, a little bit of a leak. There's a little bit of a leak stuff going on, which I'm going to cover a little bit more of that later. Elon tweeted about the Berlin paint shop here. He was talking about Norway, success in Norway. Kristen Netten, K10, said, looking forward to the new paint colors coming out of Giga Berlin Paint Shop. And Elon said, Berlin Paint Shop's going to be great, but bear in mind, it takes about a year for a new factory to reach volume production. So he's lowering expectations for the volume of vehicles coming out of Giga Berlin. that they're not going to reach high volumes of production. I don't know what volume production means. Does he mean they're only going to produce 10,000 vehicles? We can look at the path for Giga Shanghai, and we should expect a similar path to Giga Shanghai in terms of how fast Giga Berlin and Giga Texas spool up. There was a little bit of news about batteries. I think it was the GM Bolt, the Chevy Bolt that had fire problems. And Limiting Factor tweeted, this is a reply to the Limiting Factor, I think. Elon replied saying, the probability of thermal runaway is dangerously high with large pouch cells. Tesla strongly recommends against their use. There's different kinds of cells that are used in vehicles and other things. So Tesla uses cylindrical battery cells, like this is a Fred Jessup's mock-up of a 4680, right? Thank you, Fred, for sending me this free printed thing. It's not free for you. It was free for me. So that's a cylindrical cell. There's another kind of cell called prismatic, which is kind of like a box. I don't have a good box to show you, but it's like a rectangular box, like a thick book, bigger than a thick book, but that's roughly the idea. And then pouch cells are soft. And I don't know the chemistry, but Elon's saying there's a really big risk of thermal runaway, which means a fire. Thermal runaway, heat runaway. So Tesla Facts asked about pressure-protected prismatic are good and safe in steel cylindrical for nickel. And Elon says, physics of large cells means distance from cooling loop to center of cell is high, so harder to prevent hot spots. And then pressure and heat released from large cell and weak bag make it impossible to stop whole pack from burning. Pretty basic. So that's the problem with the pouch cells. Now there's an interesting question. Are they going to do... We know they're doing 4680 steel cylindrical nickel cells. And Tesla Facts mentioned iron and steel cylindrical. And Elon said yes. What was he saying yes to? Was he saying yes to pressure-protected prismatic cells for iron? Or was he saying yes to steel cylindrical for iron as well? Or maybe both? That's interesting stuff. We'll see where that's going. Okay. So, just talking a little further about batteries here. Elon said there's vast amounts of iron and lithium on Earth, but much less nickel. For global industry to scale battery production to 10 terawatt hours a year, it needs to be mostly iron. So he thinks that iron-based cells, lithium iron phosphate cells, are the future of most battery usage. And he says higher energy density of nickel only needed for very long-range vehicles and aircraft. And Viv, Falcon Heavy Viv, says how many miles of range would be considered very long range? And what's the tipping point to switch to nickel from iron? And Elon says this is debatable, but he would call anything with 300 miles or 500 kilometers of true usable travel distance long range. So the video I just did yesterday, I think theoretically the Model Y I was driving has 280 to 300 miles of range, but it doesn't really have 300 miles of true usable range. So obviously the goal is to get the vehicles up over 300 miles EPA range, to get them to 320 or 340 miles of EPA range, which will get them to 300 miles of usable range. And my experience would have been a lot better if it actually had a genuine 300 miles of true usable range. So that's a step. All right, let's see. Moving on to FSD. Yvonne asked about 10.1 expansion to early access to people who paid for FSD. And Elon said that's the aspiration, but we need to be cautious. Safety is always paramount. I got a couple more tweets coming about FSD Beta 10. Renee Pratthole, who Elon replies to frequently, says, which build have you been running or testing in your car? Elon said, I mostly run alpha software in my car, which in other words, alpha software is more advanced than whatever the beta is. It's what they're working on to see what works before they put it into beta. He said that's not meant for public consumption. A few days before release, he switches his car to what the public will experience. So if Beta 10 is coming, Elon's going to be driving it a few days before it comes. And see, I think he tweeted it. Maybe I think he already tweeted about, I don't know if it's in here or not. Let's see. There's another tweet. Somebody tested FSD beta at Yosemite National Park. Said how crazy it was, how crazy well it did on those roads. And Elon said, Beta 10 is a step change improvement from what you have. He's expecting a big jump in improvement with Beta 10. And this is the big one. Elon says up here, FSD Beta 10 rolls out midnight Friday next week. So that wasn't a couple days ago Friday. That's the Friday coming. But he is expecting Beta 10 to roll out midnight Friday this coming week, this coming Friday now. Don't be surprised if it gets pushed off a day or two or longer, but it looks like it's coming. Toby asked about FSD beta for Canadian users, and Elon says it's a few months away. They have to test it first in the US, get it working in the US, and then move on and test it in every regulatory environment before they release it. Zach from Black Model 3 asked, will Beta 10 have any UI improvements, user interface improvements over version 9? And Elon says yes, without a lot more detail. So there's a lot of FSD news coming, and we're going to see a big jump, hopefully on Friday. And hopefully I will ride in the big jump before I go out to Texas, which I'm going to talk about in the next section. Hopefully Raphael from Tesla Tina will take me for a ride in Beta 10 when it comes out, which will hopefully be this coming week. This coming Friday into the weekend, and maybe next weekend or a couple days after that, I'll be able to ride with him on it. We'll see if I can talk him into it. And sort of moving on a little bit. This is a little bit miscellaneous, but I moved it ahead. Ashley Vance was joking with Elon that he should have a Falcon Heavy hover over Jeff Bezos' house all day. And Elon said maybe we'll zap on the head with space lasers. Check my channel for a video I just did about Elon Musk versus Jeff Bezos. But Aaron said, can we have an update on the Roadster now that Plaid with Tri-Motors is out? Elon said 2021 has been the year of super crazy supply chain shortages. It wouldn't matter if we had 17 new products, as none would ship. Assuming 2022 is not mega drama, new Roadster should ship in 2023. So that's a conditional 2023. That doesn't mean Roadster is shipping in 2023. That's saying if everything doesn't continue as crazy, then we'll see Roadster in 2023. So it's a long delay from Roadster, from when it was announced to when it's going to be delivered. But they just don't have the supply chain working to be able to deliver products they want to deliver. So Sawyer Merritt, this is a friend of mine. He's a Clubhouse / Twitter friend of mine. I've never met him in person yet. I hope to meet him someday. Wonderful guy, though. I love him. Sawyer did a thread tweet on a thread tweet. There's two of these that I'm going to go through, where he talked about Elon spoke to his employees. It was a sort of all-in employee meeting. And Sawyer is tweeting what employees told him Elon said. Multiple sources for Sawyer. I actually verified this with a source I have who works for Tesla. So number one, Elon is expecting Gigafactory Berlin to get approved in October, which would mean it's going to start producing vehicles probably in October into November, and maybe start delivering before the end of the year. Tesla is going to spell Tesla on the Gigafactory Austin roof for planes landing on the airport nearby. Giga, Texas is right near Austin's airport. Spelling Tesla on the roof is kind of a cool thing to do. I wonder if they're going to spell it in solar panels. That would be even cooler. Elon praised the Tesla team for their hard work. He said, FSD 10 is quite profound, a revelation. It's the future. Version 10 next week, and button request 2 weeks after that. So Elon is optimistically expecting that we're going to have this FSD version 10 released this coming Friday. And then 2 weeks later, the button, which means people who've paid for FSD will be able to join the beta program, which means a much larger number of people using beta. Remember, if you're one of those people, you have to be careful. You have to watch it. You have to monitor it. It will be better, but you still have to watch it carefully, because every once in a while it will do something wrong, and you need to watch that. If you're joining the beta, it doesn't mean you get to sleep in the back of the car while the car drives. You have to watch it. You have to pay attention. Sawyer said Elon said Tesla is considering, quote, Model 2 not having steering wheel and pedals and just roll the dice on FSD. In other words, that future vehicle they described at Battery Day would not have a steering wheel or pedals. They're thinking about it. Tesla won't call it the Model 2. They only called the Model 3 the Model 3 because Ford had Model E trademark, so they did Model E3 just to troll them. He said elsewhere, I think it was a couple years ago, that after the Model Y, they're going to not have the same consistency in naming. I don't know what that means. A lot of people still like the Model Q to make fun of all the Tesla Q people who want Tesla to go bankrupt. But I think, I actually think that the $25,000 vehicle is more than one vehicle. It's a platform that supports multiple vehicles. I don't know for sure. That's my gut. Sawyer also says Elon, there will be an open charging network very soon, starting maybe next month using Tesla app, and it will start in Europe rather than the US. Interesting. So other electric vehicles will be able to use the Tesla supercharging network soon. Okay. Up here, Cybertruck delayed to late 2022, production starting late 22, and volume production in 2023. Again, I think this is related to supply chain. I don't think this is related to Tesla's ability to build the vehicle. It's just they don't have the supplies and they want to get Model Y going. And Model Y is probably more important to the company than Cybertruck in the long run. So getting Model Y going is a lot more important. So the supplies go there. I think that's why Model X has been delayed as well, because Model Y is the core vehicle for the company until the 2023 Compact comes along. Elon is expecting to grow by a factor of 10 at least. It wasn't clear what he meant by grow. Does he mean growing the number of employees? Does he mean growing the stock price? Does he mean growing the vehicle production? That wasn't clear. And I don't think we have an answer to that. Elon said he may be going to Mars in about 10 years. That's an interesting statement. I have a feeling that's a little soon, but you know, I like the optimism. I think Elon has more to do on Earth to make the Mars. It's more important for Elon to be on Earth to make the Mars colony happen than for Elon to go to Mars. But I don't want to presume I know better than Elon. Sawyer said robo-ban in the future to address people with disability. I think it's very likely we'll see a van. I'm looking forward to that. I expect it to be on the Cybertruck platform, but we'll see. And Sawyer said at the end he wanted to retract it. The Cybertruck isn't delayed. Stated weeks ago that Cybertruck had been moved to 2022, and he just confirmed that. So it wasn't really a new delay. It was the delay that had already been announced. So, and I'm very biased on that one. I have 2 Cybertrucks ordered. Anybody's following me knows I'm getting a Model 3 in a couple weeks. I have a Model X Plaid on order for April, which I may or may not go through with. Given that Cybertruck is being delayed so long, I'm more likely to go with the Model X Plaid. We'll see about that. It's a really stupid decision. That's like a big financial decision. I've never bought a car that costs more than $40,000. So 120 grand is a lot. So probably not going through that, but we'll see. I'm not giving up on it yet. So miscellaneous details. Let's see. Boring Company. Boring Company had submitted a bid to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, which is about 45 minutes south of me. And I interviewed the mayor. If you search my channel for Boring Fort Lauderdale, you'll find my interview with the mayor of Fort Lauderdale. We talked about this. So Boring Company submitted a proposal to do what they called Las Olas Loop, which would go from downtown Fort Lauderdale to the beach, down a street called Las Olas, which is the street that goes to the beach. Very popular shopping street. A lot of nice homes that are right off Las Olas as you get closer to the beach. Nice beach. So Bloomberg covered this story, and as I understand it, other companies bid on the project. There were 2 other bids, but the bids didn't meet the requirements that were set forth in order to bid. So it's down to Fort Lauderdale deciding whether they're going to go forward with the Boring Company's bid. Not sure what, and I had hoped that after their bids were rejected and it was down to just the Boring Company, that I would be able to get public record copies of the proposal and the other proposals. And I was told no. I actually reached out to the mayor's office. I have a contact. I reached out to the public records people, and they told me, no, you can't have it yet. Apparently it did and this local newspaper, or maybe it was Bloomberg, I think it was a local newspaper, made the same comment that they were not able to get it, that they said it's not public record yet. So, another miscellaneous detail, the governor of Texas just the other day said that he talks to Elon frequently and that Elon had to get out of California because of the social policies in California, and that Elon likes the social policies in the state of Texas. I don't think this is referring to abortion law, just to be clear. I think this is referring to COVID restrictions and other regulatory restrictions. I'm surprised. And Elon replied to this tweet from Michael Sheets saying, in general, I believe government should rarely impose its will upon the people, and when doing so should aspire to maximize their cumulative happiness. That said, I would prefer to stay out of politics. This sounds reasonably libertarian to me. Government should rarely impose its will upon the people sounds very libertarian to me. It's always unclear what exactly is Elon's underlying political philosophy, and he would rather stay out of politics, so we won't go further, but that was an interesting little bit there in the news. Mark Bevel, yes, if you watch the video, I pulled over, let the car restart. I was driving the car and FSD kicked out. I pulled over, let the car restart, and everything was fine. Just turned the car off, got out and went for a walk. Somebody told me just put the car in park and put it back in drive, and that's all you need to do. So another detail, this is sort of Neuralink news. Max Hodak, who co-founded Neuralink with Elon and was the chief operating officer, I think, announced his departure from the company. It wasn't clear what he was doing or why. It appears that he is now working on a well-funded new brain interface venture called Science Corp. They raised $47 million from 14 investors for the new company. So I personally think this is good news. Some people think that Elon is actually supporting this venture. We'll see. Best wishes to Max. I think he's a good guy. Obviously didn't work out with Neuralink, but let's see what he can do. Elon was asked by Zeph, why would you warn us about, he says, want us. Why would you warn us about artificial intelligence and then make a robot? Elon says the robots are coming anyway, as Boston Dynamics videos clearly show. I will not be able to ensure that robots made by other companies are safe, but I can try my best to do so at Tesla. So I think Elon's thinking, well, as long as we're going to have robots, I might as well make ones that are safe to protect us from the danger. If he outcompetes the unsafe ones, then we'll be safer with his. Just like Tesla vehicles are safer than other vehicles. Now, big personal news for me, I am buying Omar Kazi's Tesla Model 3 long range. It's a 2018 vehicle. I think it has about 75,000 miles on it. I'm paying $44,000 for it. There was an auction fee. I'll probably be paying property tax on it here in Florida, or whatever, sales tax here in Florida when I get it here. Currently, the vehicle actually has FSD beta. I'm sure I won't get to keep Omar's beta when I get the car here, but the button should be out around the time I get the car home, so I should be able to get beta again when I get the car home. Started with 310 miles of range, down to about 295 miles of range. I personally prefer a white car with white seats, but I'll deal with it. The fact that it has climate control that you can turn on from your phone kind of resolves the reasons why I want a white car. So my plan is I'm flying out to, and this is a little bit of personal news, which relates to the channel. I'm flying out to Texas in a little more than a week, flying to Brownsville, Texas to visit Starbase. I'm going to stay there for a few days. I've got one YouTuber I'm meeting there. We're going to do some collaboration work. Then I'm going to fly to Austin, Texas, just me. I'm going to check out Giga, Texas. I went to college in Houston, Texas. I have some friends near Austin, so hopefully meet up with a couple of college friends, maybe meet up with a couple of other people. Brian Roshetsky, who does drone flyovers of Giga, Texas. I might be meeting up with him. We'll see who else I get to meet with while I'm there. Probably just spend a couple days in Austin. And then I'm flying to Los Angeles to pick up this car and drive it home. Right now, it looks like Omar is going to go with me, and we're going to drive together. My brother, who lives right near Omar, actually, my brother might ride with us to Tucson or some short distance, and then he'll fly back home. I'm not sure if Omar's going to ride the whole way with me, or maybe Omar gets out in Austin. We'll figure that out. He hasn't made up his mind yet. Sounds like he's committed to doing the whole ride. And the idea would be we do the whole ride with Beta 10. And I think his idea is we do the whole ride with FSD Beta 10 and see if we can, how many interventions we have going across the country. You know, maybe we can do a zero intervention drive across the country. That would be really cool. And I'm planning on live streaming every morning on the drive back when we hit the first Supercharger station, or maybe the second Supercharger station. It won't be regularly scheduled. It's just I'm going to have my phone and start live streaming from my phone from whatever Supercharger station we're at, just describing, you know, what's happened that morning, what we're doing that day, and what happened the previous day. Probably like a 10 or 20 minute live stream while the vehicle's charging. Rough idea of the plan. Probably going to have less regular content. I'm almost certainly going to have less regular content over that period of time from when I fly to Texas to when I come back from California. But I'll have a lot of live streaming content in that time. So good stuff there. Yeah, I'm not going to video the whole road trip because I mean, maybe Omar will video the whole road trip. I'm not going to video the whole road trip. I think that would be, I've seen some of these videos where somebody goes on a really long drive and puts it on like a time lapse. I find them unwatchable. So I think I'm going to video about the road trip, and I'm not just going to video the whole trip. Maybe I'll use the video I accumulate to use for something, but probably not. Once I get back, I'm probably going to want to get back to making my regular videos, talk about Tesla stock. The annual meeting is coming October 7th. I think the earnings will be coming out around then. No, I think the earnings, I don't know if the earnings will come out October 7th. I think the deliveries for Q3 will come out October 2nd or so. So I want to gear up for getting back to Tesla stock at some point. So another key, this is again miscellaneous. Let me see if I can move this a little bit. No, that's it. So somebody tweeted, forget who did this tweet to Elon. He was quote tweeting Elon. Elon had made this quote about time is the ultimate currency. And somebody said, when listening to Elon speak, it really is like he's counting back from the end of his useful lifespan to now and estimating all the steps and deadlines needed to become multiplanetary. It's a race against the clock for him, for all of us. And Elon said, yes. And I don't know if people have picked up on like this small EV company I'm working on. I noticed this a while ago. I had this revelation 3 or 4 months ago. If you watched the Elon's interview with Everyday Astronaut, he talked about we need to innovate with extreme urgency. But before that comment, I started to think about, okay, what's my useful lifespan? My useful lifespan is about 20 years from now. I'm 55. My gut guess is by the age of 75, I'm going to be mostly useless. I may still have some use left in me at 75, but by 80, 85 for sure. So just sort of thinking, all right, what am I going to do in the next 20 years to be useful, to do something meaningful? Jordan Peterson's big on do something meaningful. What gives us meaning in life? Doing meaningful work. So I am working on that idea, and that really motivated me. So I'll probably be telling some more, talking more about that, both on this business side of it, that I'm starting a small EV company, maybe on personal level, some things that are going on. Get into a lot of that in the next few weeks. This journey is kind of a cool thing to do, but this is really setting the stage for what I want to do in the future. Getting a feel for Starbase, getting a feel for Austin, Texas, driving the country, trying live streaming instead of making all edited videos. Maybe I end up liking doing daily live streams better than I like doing weekly live stream plus edited videos. Got to figure all that out. A lot of different things going on that are on my mind. So that is this week's, wow, we have 46 minutes with all this stuff. Great. So let's move on to the regular Q&A. If you have questions, please ask them in the chat. I'm going to be reading the chat to see what questions you have. Okay, let's see. What about videoing the whole road trip from inside the boot? That's definitely not going to happen. The boot, by the way, is the trunk for people who don't speak British. Can I speak any on Neuralink? I spoke briefly on Neuralink that Max Hodak, who was a co-founder of Neuralink, left the company a while ago. He has started a new company that may be a competitor to Neuralink. We'll see. Got some funding. Best wishes to him. Jose Marquez says, have you heard of an Asian saying he will buy over 1 million shares of Tesla? I heard something about it, but I don't know. Brian Roshetsky in the chat. I'm hoping to meet up with Brian Roshetsky at Austin. Brian says he's heading over to Giga, Texas right now. I'm hoping he can show me around. Check out Brian's YouTube channel to watch videos of flyovers of Giga, Texas. The Herman says, with all you have going on, YouTube, small EV, buying new car, stainless steel house idea, is it hard to keep so many pots boiling on the stove? Yes, it is. Stainless steel house idea is over. The idea of steel homes is still one of the ideas, to start up a startup company that builds low-cost, probably apartment housing using not stainless steel, but steel construction. I don't think it's stainless. They're known as steel buildings. So I kind of have some ideas about that. Put solar on the roof, incorporate power walls or power packs or mega packs into the development. I think that idea may work better in Texas than anywhere else. So that's why, I talk about making decisions for the future. I may feel like I need to move to Texas. Also thinking about moving to Canaveral. Let's see. How much money will Tesla make if they mass produce Teslabots, and who will buy Teslabots? I don't know if I talked about that on YouTube before. I could definitely see Tesla producing easily 10 million bots a year at $10,000 a piece, and that's $100 billion a year in revenue. And I wouldn't think it's crazy to go to 100 million bots a year. 100 million bots, $10,000 a piece, that's $1 trillion a year in revenue. Could it be more than that? Maybe. Who will buy Teslabots? I think there's a lot of potential applications for Teslabots. Assisted living facilities, senior living facilities to help with seniors. Probably safer and more pleasant for humans not to have to pick up crap and clean up urine and other messes, and help somebody stand up and maybe be able to provide more attention to seniors who need more attention, that you just don't have enough humans there. My mother's in an assisted living facility. You can't give them enough attention. Some people just need more attention than you can possibly give them, and having bots able to give them some attention might be a very low-cost way of doing that. I think roofing is a really good example. I think there's a lot of different uses. Deliveries, maybe they can ride a scooter and do deliveries. Let's see. Do I think OpenAI and GPT-3 will be part of Teslabot? No, I think Tesla Vision will be part of Teslabot. I didn't think about GPT-3. I don't think that's a part of it. I think it's pretty much just Tesla's AI vision system will be expanded to handle other things. It'll be the next generation FSD4 chip, maybe. Do I think Tesla will push out an early alpha beta version of the robot with limited function? It will be more of a novelty for early adopters and supporters. No. I think, well, first of all, I think we're not going to see... Elon said prototype in 2023. I think that's up. Maybe, did he say 2022? I thought he said 2023. I think we might see a prototype in 2022, late 22, early 23, but that would be an early prototype. Not sold, no. I think the challenge is once they figure out what they want to build, then they've got to get it to manufacturing. There'll be a first generation bot. There'll be second generation bots. I wouldn't expect production until 2025. You know, given that Roadster still isn't here, right? We still don't have Roadster. We still don't have Semi. We still don't have Cybertruck. You know, not every product happens as quickly as we'd like. Model Y came quicker than we expected, so who knows? Steel buildings are galvanized. That's correct. That's right. The steel building would be galvanized steel buildings. That is correct. Make a video on Tesla charts and Mark Spiegel titled How FUD Makes You Lose Tons of Money. I've made videos critiquing Tesla Q people. I have a particular Tesla Q tweet thread that I might make a video about that really irked me. Declan Murphy said, Kathy Wood said we could have 40 million EVs produced yearly by 2025. I can see Tesla making maybe 10 million, but I can't see whether the other 30 million comes from that soon. What's my take? Thank you, Declan. For Declan, I follow Declan on Clubhouse. Where'd that go? I lost you. Where'd it go? Declan, where'd you go? Let's see. I think by 2025, Tesla will be making more than 10 million vehicles. I think 2026, Tesla could conceivably make 15 to 20 million vehicles. So I think there's a good chance they make more than 10 million in 2025. Where are the other ones coming from? China. I think China will make a high volume of EVs. I think 40 is pretty optimistic for Kathy. None of the major current automakers are going to do it, but China. And it might be small EVs too. Don't forget that she might be talking about very small EVs that are not like highway capable. That's possible. Marty Party asks, am I going to the Tesla shareholder meeting? I am planning to go to the Tesla shareholder meeting. There is an open question about whether California regulations will allow in-person attendance. Right now they do. I have been in touch with Tesla about it. They are working on what their plans are for letting people in. Tom asks, hey Warren, since when are you invested in Tesla? I first started buying Tesla stock in early 2016. I have been buying, not regularly, but I have bought every year since, multiple times. I've probably made more than 20 purchases of Tesla stock since 2016. The thing that really got me off the couch and made me jump to buy it was my recollection of it was the landing of the orbital rocket booster in December 2015 was like a really big driver. When do I think E2E traveling will take off? I don't think Starship Earth-to-Earth traveling will ever take off. I think it will happen. I don't think it will ever be a big market. I think it's going to be too expensive for most people. I don't think the volume's there for that kind of travel, but we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I think SpaceX knows better than I do. Elon and Gwynn both think it's going to happen. Brooke Chen says, what are my thoughts on Samsung SDI developing solid-state batteries as well as StoreDot's 4680 cells that can charge in 10 minutes? I don't know much about that. I think solid-state is something that's another one of those things that's 10 years away and has been 10 years away for 20 years and will be 10 years away 10 years from now. We'll see. I don't think solid state's going to matter as much as people think. I think that even lithium iron phosphate cells that have maybe 200 watt hours per kilogram or less are already very, very useful in a lot of markets, and they're very, very inexpensive. And the nickel-based cells are going to get not as cheap as lithium iron phosphate, but they're going to come down in price. Just the 4680s are going to be reasonably inexpensive and very, very valuable. I think the market opportunity for solid state might be a lot smaller than people think. Okay, let's go check in the chat here. Why are you asking someone who doesn't work for Tesla what Tesla will do? Because people who work for Tesla can't say, that's why. Do I think the first Tesla robots will be collector's items, especially if signed by Elon? Yeah, I definitely think if they're the first one, the first 10, maybe. I don't know. I don't think Elon's necessarily going to get in the business of signing robots. We'll see. CATL is really ramping up battery production. That is absolutely true. CATL is ramping up like crazy. If you search for CATL 2020, I think it was 2026 or 2025, they are ramping battery production up like insane levels. Do I believe Neuralink will have the clinical trials they aim to conduct this year? I believe Neuralink will start clinical trials. I hope that Neuralink will start its clinical trials by the end of this year. I don't know what the holdup is. I don't think it's really a big deal whether they start in November or they start in February, but I think it's coming. Tom McInerney says, will Tesla relocate from Texas, given Texas's assault on women's rights and health? No, I don't think Tesla is going to relocate from Texas. I don't think that makes any sense at all. Texas is the second largest state in the union. I'm pro-choice, to be blunt. I don't like to get political on the channel, but I am personally pro-choice. I am politically pro-choice. I don't necessarily vote for every person based on that issue. I generally do not vote based on that issue, but that is my personal view. I don't like government intervening in our lives in any way. And if you don't like government intervention, then pro-choice is the position, in my opinion. There are libertarians who disagree with me, but I am much more concerned about California and New York, their assault on everyone's rights. And Texas and Florida have been much better on rights for everyone in general. So I would not move to California. I would not move to New York. I want to live in a state where people's rights are protected. And, I support a woman's right to choose, absolutely. I also support my right to choose whether to wear a mask or whether to get vaccinated, which is the opposite of the way people think in California and New York. You can think that Texas's policy on abortion is more important than California's policy or New York's policy that black people who are unvaccinated can't go into a restaurant. I personally think that's really troubling. So, will Elon sign some of his robots? Probably. Let's see. Sorry, I didn't mean to get political. I shouldn't have let that get to me. Can Tesla buy? And then I have a channel. If you look in the description below, I have a channel where I talk politics a lot more. Most of the videos are behind a paywall. It's on locals.com. There's a link in the description below if you want to check that out. I try not to get political in my live streams. Will Tesla owners ever get to use the 8 built-in cameras as regular dash cams? I think that there's a way to use... I don't know enough about this build. I thought it was already possible for a Tesla owner to access the cameras and record them. I could be wrong, but I've certainly seen a lot of videos of people showing videos of clips of something that happened from their side camera or their rear camera. So I think that's already accessible. You just have to know how. Chris Anderson, every EB buyer will download a Tesla app to use the supercharging network, like buying a smartphone, having to download the Amazon app. What's that worth to the stock price? I think it is a big deal. First of all, I don't think there are that many other EV buyers that it matters that much. There's a lot more Teslas on the road than there are other EVs of significance. And I think that gap is going to grow bigger as Tesla expands production. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. Like you sell a Ford sells a Mustang Mach-E or a Ford F-150 Lightning, or Polestar sells a Polestar, and the owner of the vehicle goes to Tesla supercharging stations to charge and gets dosed heavily with branding from Tesla. That's not really a good look for the company making EVs to have Tesla getting their branding all over their customers. That's kind of an interesting little feature there. Let's see. When do I think I answered that. Just looking to see what other questions y'all have. If you have questions, please put them in the chat. Is it too late to invest $200,000 into Tesla and hold until 2031? So I am not a professional investment advisor. I can't give financial advice. I'm currently holding more than $200,000 in Tesla stock, and I'm planning to hold it until 2031. So my opinion is it's not too late to do so, because I could sell my Tesla stock if I thought there was something better to invest in. I think ultimately the question is, what better place do you have to invest your money than Tesla stock? I don't have an answer to that. So... oh my God. We're not going to talk. I'm sorry I responded to that comment. Bots may well take maybe as long as self-driving to work well, 5 years plus. I think that we won't see a Tesla bot in significant volume until 2026. I don't know. How long before we can translate Neuralink data to Tesla bot instead of within human? I think that's probably so. If you watch, I did a video where I summarized that there was a video by Siobhan Zillis, who is a project director at Neuralink, and she is a really good video of her talking. I did a video about her video and about another Neuralink employee's article. And I recommend my video, but I would also recommend watching Siobhan Zillis' video. I don't think we're going to see Neuralink in people who don't have serious medical conditions for at least 8 years. So that was 2021. So 2029, 2030 before we start to see Neuralinks being offered to people who don't have like paralysis, brain disease, blindness. Because there's enough people with paralysis, brain disease, blindness, and other diseases where Neuralink might help to focus on them before we start Neuralink starts building them for everyone. How much does it cost to smash the button? Please smash the like button. Please support the channel. Support the channel on Patreon. Join the channel. Buy the merch. Starship t-shirt in the top of the chat. The Elon stainless water bottle. All that on elonbits.com. You can check out my book, Fair to UI. If you like the way I think, you might like this book. It's got like really good reviews on Amazon. And it's cheap. What do I believe is the most accurate timeline for SpaceX landing humans on Mars? Interesting question, Vorq. I'm going to make a video about this topic, but I'll just really briefly say that there's a small chance that SpaceX launches a rocket to Mars in 2022. It will be a down-featured, minimal payload or near zero payload rocket Starship. A lot of alterations would have to be made to make this work. Probably stretch the tanks, not refueled in orbit, just get it up there and get it going there. Probably wouldn't have, minimal landing fins, minimal weight in order to be able to get it to Mars and see if they can stick a landing on Mars in the first try. It's a theory. I think they might try to do it. To get valuable data to show off, but particularly they can get valuable data about trying to land on Mars so that in 2024, when I think SpaceX will send multiple cargo missions to Mars, I'm talking 3 ships, 5 ships or more, and they'll land them one at a time with a few days at least apart so they can get the data from the first one that fails and apply that to the second ship and apply the data from the first and second ship to the third ship and hopefully stick 3 or 4 landings out of 5 ships and then have a lot of solar panels, a lot of batteries, a lot of whatever other cargo is needed to be able to serve when humans come maybe in 2026. I think humans are 2029. I think Elon may be gunning for humans in 2026. So... and then I'm going to talk about that more. I have plans to make a video about that specific point because that's been bugging me too. Can I speculate on where Tesla robot development will be in 2030? By 2030, I would expect Teslabot to be well along the way to mass production, maybe producing more than 10 million a year, maybe a lot more than 10 million a year. And about Dojo, I want to answer your question about Dojo. So I think that we have the current version of Dojo is going into production soon, and we're going to see that in operation. My guess is sometime in 2023, and my guess then is that the next generation Dojo probably won't be ready until 2027. There's an interesting question. Once they build this Dojo, does it make sense to build more of them, or does it make sense to wait for the next generation Dojo? They're probably going to build at least a couple dojos, maybe 5 or 10 dojos. For training Teslabot. It depends on how much they can cost and what they think they can use it for. Marty Party says, if your body was failing, when do you think people could put their head on a Teslabot and maybe buy themselves another 10 years or longer? I think it's more likely that Neuralink... I don't think putting your head on a Teslabot is really a solution. I don't think that works. I think that the dream solution is, the science fiction solution is that you're able to upload your consciousness to a cloud and then download your consciousness to a bot. Or to something else. Or to more than one bot. If you haven't seen it, there's a series on Amazon, a series of books by an author named Ian Banks. It's supposedly one of Elon's favorite book series, called the Culture series. Ian Banks is spelled I-A-I-N, Ian Banks. Really highly recommend it. And you can see Neuralink in the stories, and you can see the inspiration for Neuralink in the stories, and the idea of uploading consciousness and downloading into multiple bots and things like that. There's a lot of that in there. And the future, what the future of AI might be, there's a lot of that in there. Artificial general intelligence. Elliot says, if bots become increasingly self-aware, should they be granted certain rights just as some animals or even human rights? There's a great interview on Lex Friedman with Jeff Hawkins that was in the last month or so, where they talk vaguely about that. Jeff does not think that bots are really going to be equivalent to human. So I can't speak for Jeff, but my impression of what he said was that that's an unreasonable, that's not a reasonable way to look at the bots. Maybe at some point we get to artificial general intelligence and we get there, but what we're doing right now, that's not it. Put all the politicians on the first ship, yeah. Should Tesla buy another car company for patents? No, there's no useful patent. I don't think that any of the car companies have anything useful for Tesla. Do I think Elon's $3,000 price target for 2025 is reasonable? I don't think Elon's price target is 2025. I don't think to $3,000. I don't think he said that. I think that ARK Invest base case is reasonable, but I would call it low. As a base case, as a minimum price, yeah, I think it's reasonable to say that that's the lowest that Tesla will be in 2025. I think it's going to be higher. I think my base case for 2030 is $8,000 a share, and that's if FSD never works. So if FSD works, the valuation is just crazy once robotaxis start happening. If anybody's seen my videos about robotaxi and the valuation, it's insane. Matt Burns asks, am I still thinking 2 million cars next year? Yeah. I mean, I think we're going to hit 850 to 900,000 cars this year. And then as Giga Texas and Giga Berlin spool up and Shanghai continues to grow and Fremont grows a little, it depends on supply chain. If the supply chain still is a big problem in 2022, then no. But, 1.6 million, 1.7 million is kind of like a low-end scenario for where we go, unless, it's hard to predict how bad everything gets. I mean, I think there's some serious chaos potential coming. But we'll see. Yes, Jim Whitehead, if the first ship landing blows up, it's a good thing. The first Starship landing on Mars blows up, it's a good thing because we learn from it. As long as we get data and we learn from the data, that's what's important. All right, let's see. Should Tesla buy Boston Dynamics? No. The robots they're building are not the same idea that what Tesla's trying to do. Damien says, do I think there will be a medical version of the Tesla robot, for example, a chiropractor bot with x-ray vision to give chiropractor back treatment? So I'm not a fan of chiropractic. Just to be clear. Mitcherdate says, Eliana Sheriff can do 8 pull-ups. How many can you do? Oh, I'll get on the personal side here a little bit. I'm on a diet. I have never gotten more advice in my life about driving and diet. In the last 36 years, I got more advice in the last 48 hours than I got in the last 36 years about diet and about exercise and about driving. Because I did a video about driving the Model Y, and I got all kinds of feedback on that, including in this chat. And said I fasted yesterday. I ate breakfast, and then I didn't eat lunch or dinner, and I didn't snack. There were a couple of moments that were tough, but I resisted, and I did well. And I didn't eat lunch today yet either. I'm not sure I'm going to eat lunch today. I'm going to have dinner. I had a light breakfast, trying to lose weight and do other things. Eliana Sheriff can do 8 pull-ups. I think Eliana Sheriff can do a lot more than 8 pull-ups, just to be clear. How many can I haven't tried doing pull-ups in a long time. Chin-ups I'm better at than pull-ups. Probably not very many. But we'll see. If I lose weight, maybe I'll have a better shot at it. But anyway, medical version of Teslabot. There are already medical robots, surgical robots. I don't think Teslabot is necessarily appropriate for medical procedures. I think other robots. Oh, Dusty Green, good question. What do I think about population collapse? I'm not that worried about population collapse. That's a way down the road problem. I'm much more worried about other problems that could happen sooner, like economic collapse. I think that money printing has been a huge problem. I don't think that Bitcoin and crypto are going to save us from the economic collapse when governments print too much money and the dollar goes downhill. It might save the people who have crypto. It might not. The lights go out. If the power goes out, how do you use your crypto? This is a problem with crypto. When the electricity goes out, you can't use your crypto. But I'm less worried about population collapse. I think it's an issue, but I don't think that's a down the road issue. That's further down the road than climate change, right? If you're worried about climate change is like a 10, 20, 30 year issue. Population collapse is a 100-year issue. It's a concern. I'm more worried about short-term things than that. That's a very long-term thing. I think it's important that we deal with it. So Could Teslabot replace PTs? Physical therapists? Maybe. You Make It Real says, what are you referring to when you say coming chaos? Are you talking about Chinese government's existential crisis resisting Western influence? So let's be clear about this. I get a lot of negative comments about China in YouTube comments, Twitter, in the chat. I actually have the word China and the term CCP marked for suspended comment. Those comments are held for review because I want to make sure that people aren't just trashing China in the comments, because there's this insane volume of anti-China sentiment. I don't think China's government is a problem. I think China's government has been better to Tesla than European governments have been and California government has been. You worry about government. I think government is a big threat to Tesla and SpaceX and everything else. But I don't think the Chinese government's the big problem. I think the California government's a big problem. The German government's a big problem. European governments are a big problem. Coming chaos is the potential for economic collapse due to excessive money printing and excessive government debt. So... I have my zombie apocalypse cabin ready. It's not much, but I have something, and I'd like to build something bigger, but I haven't had a chance to do that yet. I have things going on personally that I'm undecided about whether I'm going to go forward with a cabin on the lot that I have or just leave what I have there and build something somewhere else or do something somewhere else. Could Tesla help prop up the African economy in other poor countries? So this is the thing. I think when people talk about it, that's sort of like a foreign aid thing from a corporate standpoint. The problem in many poor countries isn't that they don't have enough investment opportunity. The problem is that they don't have the rule of law. And if you invest your money and your time and your effort in a country to build something, some company of value, and then you don't have stable rule of law, then you have genuine fears that they're going to take away what you invested, and then you just don't invest at all. And so that people with capital don't invest in places where their capital rights aren't protected. So, that's a problem. Did SpaceX already choose Mars landing site? I don't think so, but people have talked about it. I would check out the Mars Society. They have a lot of ideas. There's some place that I've heard about. I don't worry about that so much. Elliot Safar, what worries you most as a Tesla investor? Government. Government is the greatest threat to Tesla's success. Absolutely. The fact that the President of the United States held an event about electric vehicles and didn't invite Tesla to the event would be pretty disturbing if I had a positive impression of the President of the United States. I had a positive impression of the last 5 or 10 presidents of the United States, so don't take that as a shot on Joe Biden. I don't like any of them. So, let's see. I did, by the way, on the pull-up question, I did do a few push-ups the other day. I can still do push-ups. Thaddeus Walker says, debt is not a time bomb you can only take from present goods. Debt hurts us now, paying off has no pain. I disagree with that. Declan Murphy says, when do you expect to get your first ride in the Warren Pod prototype? I am hoping that we have the alpha prototype ready in the spring. March, April, something like that. That's optimistic, like 6 months from now. And the first ride will be something like a mannequin or empty. And once we drive it around with a remote control with a mannequin in it for a little while and we make sure the thing is okay, we're probably going to limit the top speed to like 15 miles an hour. Then I'll probably get my first ride in it. Jim Whitehead brings up that somebody's building a 3D concrete printed home by Habitat for Humanity. Jim, I don't believe that 3D printing homes is a solution. I think it's an interesting idea, but I haven't seen anybody do it to scale yet. Building a prototype is one thing, doing it at scale is another. Be Nice says, do you really want to be alive post-apocalypse? So B, it depends on the apocalypse. If we have an apocalyptic scenario and it lasts 3 months, then I would like to survive the 3 months and get back to normal or some kind of normal life after the 3 months is over. If we have an apocalyptic scenario that lasts 100 years, I'm not going to survive it anyway. Personally, I'd rather gut it out for 3 months, 6 months, a year, 5 years, and hope that it gets better, rather than just give up. Puppies in the room, by the way. Let's see. So we need a plan to keep up with China economically. Well, I don't think we need to worry about keeping up with China. I want China to succeed. I want China to grow. If China grows faster than us, great. I want us to succeed. Whether we're faster than China doesn't really matter. I want the United States of America, I want other countries to succeed. Oh, Eternity Human, great question. What is my estimated cost to build my Podcar team? So right now I'm spending very little money using Upwork, hiring engineers for simple projects. The Alpha Podcar should cost, the Alpha car should cost, or the Alpha prototype should cost between $20,000 and $50,000, is my guess. Going to the next level of hiring an engineering team to design the beta prototype to get close to production level quality, that's probably going to be a few $100,000 just on the design. The manufacturing should be cheap. The prototype building should be cheap, but the engineering for the design to make it really optimized, that's kind of probably going to be at least $100,000 and probably more like $200,000 or $300,000. To get a team of engineers, I need a mechanical engineer, I need an electrical engineer, probably need a vehicle dynamics engineer, maybe at least one more engineer, got decisions to make. I want to keep it without HVAC if I can. I want to make it without brakes if I can. I want to make it without a suspension if I can. A lot of people are telling me it's going to need a suspension. I'm resisting that, but we'll see. I'm probably going to have to cave on the suspension. We'll see. I'm not caving on the suspension on the Alpha prototype, though. We're going to see. Todd Foster says, how long to get, maybe they can build a bot body near, but how long to get autonomous operating software doing more than a few tricks or turning a few tricks? Years, even 1 or more decades, I bet. So Todd, I'm much more optimistic about that. I think what you're doing is you're underestimating the potential for machine learning to learn things quickly. You're not getting the exponential curve that we're on. Exponential curves make a big difference. More data, more compute. The software learns faster. Do I think electrogravitic propulsion will change the game for Elon's engineering? I don't know what electrogravitic propulsion is, so I can't answer that. David May says that scientists predict the human population will peak at 11.5 billion and start to decline. You know, we don't even have 8 billion yet. If population collapse is going to collapse from 11.5 billion and it's going to get down to 8 billion in like 200 years, that's too far down the road to worry about. What are you doing? Want to get out? Puppy's leaving the room. All right. Bruce Burnworth is advocating Tesla producing their own chip fab facilities. What's my view on this? No, I don't think Tesla should. I love Bruce Burnworth, just to be clear. I think Bruce Burnworth is a great guy. I don't think Tesla should be producing their own chip fab facilities. I think that I wouldn't rule it out. I think that their demand for chips, even when they get to scale and they're producing, I mean, maybe if they're producing 40 million Teslabots a year, the demand for chips is high enough. Maybe they've got it on the roadmap, but Elon pretty much said they're not going to do it. I think the question is, if as long as the chip industry scales up, it is kind of a Tesla thing to do, to vertically integrate. And based on the supply chain problems they're having, they may be thinking about further vertical integration. But building a chip fab is an awfully big deal. It's awfully hard to do. Marty Party says, do I think Elon's tweet about the Tesla 25K car potentially not having a steering wheel and pedals leads more credence to the idea that these will not be sold to people and will be for Tesla's own robotaxi fleet? That's been my theory all along. I made videos about it. I made at least one video about it. I think I made 2 videos about that. I think Tesla's going to stop selling cars. Search my channel. Go to my YouTube channel page and search my channel for, will Tesla stop selling cars? I think they're going to stop selling cars. It doesn't make sense to sell the cars. But I think that they can sell a self-driving car to a person. But I do think it makes more sense. Damien, I like the lettuce wrap burger idea. Fine. I'd just rather just eat a burger on a plate, though. All right, let's see. Will anyone even have a job in 15 years? Yes, I'm very optimistic that humans will adapt to a world of AI and AI bots, and we'll find things to do. We have a lot of people underestimate humans. We have adapted to so much. Look at what the world was like 100 years ago. Look at how much technology we've adapted to in the last 100 years. Humans are an amazing species. The meat computer is pretty amazing. Neuralink will help us adapt. We will adapt. We will find work. We will find meaningful things to do. Absolutely, we will. I already answered David Borg's question. Any prediction of timing for a build of Cybertruck if you're $3,366,000 and deposit of $100 with the VIN equation? Oh. No, I can't. I can't even predict my own Cybertruck, and I'm under 30,000. You know, I'm hoping I'll get my Cybertruck by the end of 2023, by the end of 2022, probably early 2023. Oh, Oliver Thomas, why do I think ARC isn't modeling energy into their $3,000 price target? They reckon the market isn't ready to hear their full-fat version yet. I didn't pay that much careful attention to ARC's model, so I don't even know that they did that. I think that energy right now is a fairly small part of Tesla's business, and Robotaxi will make energy an even smaller part of Tesla's business. Oh, good question, Damien. How many chips will your Podcar use? And am I worried about the chip shortage affecting production of your Podcar? I haven't worked out chip usage yet. I mean, I think we're going to have... There might be chips in the battery management system. There's probably a chip in the charging system for the battery, and there's probably, you know, chips in the remote control to operate the car. I'm not sure if there's many more chips than that. I don't think there's a lot of chips in the Podcar. Not in the alpha version, alpha prototype. Maybe we get further along, but I think one of the goals is going to be to minimize. The goal is always to minimize parts. Do we really want a country ruled by an authoritarian regime to do well? Willy Wong says. So, Willie, I would ask you this: do you think California has an authoritarian regime? I honestly think that California has an authoritarian regime. I think New York has an authoritarian regime. I don't mean by an authoritarian regime. I think that China's growth has made life better for 1 billion people, substantially better for more than 1 billion people. Not just for the Chinese people. China's growth has made life better for us here in America. We can complain about Chinese exports all we want, but we all buy them. So I want China to improve. I want China to do better. I think it's great. I think fears of the evil Chinese government are overwrought. Marty Party says, are batteries and battery materials the new oil? I guess it depends on what you mean by that. I don't think it means that we're going to have like oil wars or battery wars. I think they're very important for the future. Will GM be fatally wounded with their Volt debacle? I think it's the Bolt debacle. And how would anyone buy a GM in the future? I think that General Motors and Ford and the other OEMs are going to be fatally wounded by Tesla's success. And I made a video about this with Brian Wong in the last week or so, where we talked about which automaker is going to go bankrupt first. So, by the way, thank you for watching. Please join Patreon, support the channel, join this channel. You can, if you'd like to support this channel, you can give a super sticker, ask a question with a super sticker. I'm more likely to see it, or a super chat. If you do a super chat, I'm more likely to see what you're asking. Any support's helpful to help this channel grow and succeed, and it's going to go into the Podcar. I'm not doing a GoFundMe for the Podcar, by the way. Will we get our Cybertrucks before the apocalypse? I'm not sure. I hope so. Do I think I'll have to buy insurance for my Teslabot like owning a car in case it hurts someone or breaks something expensive? Probably you would have to buy insurance for your Teslabot, but at the same time, I think Tesla is going to be liable for what its bot does. Unless it does something that you intended for it to do that's dangerous. You know, if it makes a mistake, then that's probably on Tesla rather than on you. If you tell it to do something it's not supposed to do, that's on you. So yeah, you'll probably have to have insurance. Mitridate says, we have an unbelievable amount of windmills in Texas. Do I think Elon will build gigawatts of battery storage in Texas? I think Tesla is already building a lot of battery storage in Texas. I think they applied for a license to be an energy provider. Damien says, Warren, would you consider doing a video on using the backup video camera on the navigation screen of your Tesla while driving down the highway and give us an evaluation and opinion? I don't know why I would do that. I drive looking out the front of the car. I don't drive looking at the back of the car. I don't know what that means. Am I supposed to drive backwards? I don't normally look out the back window. I just noticed the back window was small when I glanced. How long for FSD? I think we're going to see FSD in a few weeks. Jose, I think I shared a rough sketch of the Podcar in my last Sunday live stream. Not sure of that, but I think so. I shared a couple of rough designs, but that, you know, we're very early. I'm planning to show details of the Podcar along the way as we make progress. I mean, ultimately, I'm expecting to do crowdfunding at some point, and I will be asking people to invest in the company. And so I think by showing off the Podcar as we go, ups and downs, be transparent, show everything, it will make people more likely to invest in the crowdfunding round, which will happen in probably not in 2022, more likely 2023, or maybe 2024. Will U.S. collapse China like the Soviet Union with the amount of trade we do? I don't even know what you mean by will the U.S. collapse China. I don't think China's going to collapse. I mean, I don't know. I don't know enough about China to comment on that. Will California block robotaxis? I don't think California will block robotaxis, no. Did I see Ryan Shaw's video accident on Model Y? Can't they improve the bunker trunk better so it's less damage if you get hit? I don't think the Teslas are any worse than other cars. I think they're better at other cars in a crash, so I'm not sure about that. Damian Weiss says, RVs tend to sit in people's driveways. A Tesla RV with a 200 kilowatt hour battery. An RV would have a lot more than 200 kilowatt hours, by the way. I think we're going to see 400 or 500 kilowatt hour battery packs for RVs. An RV with a battery could be used to back up the grid in house. So the problem with that concept, Damien, is the number of RVs is very, very small. You're not talking about a large market. I actually communicated with Mike Levine from Ford about why Ford doesn't make RVs. And it's just the volume is so low, it doesn't make sense. For a company that's making, hoping to make 5 million, 10 million, 20 million cars a year, worrying about 5,000 RVs just doesn't on the radar screen. So, I mean, I want to see it. I'm actually thinking about buying an RV. Did I raise capital to start off my small company? No, I'm self-funding my small EV company for now. I hope to self-fund it as long as I can. I hope to self-fund through the beta prototype. And then after the beta prototype, when it's time for manufacturing, then if I can continue to self-fund, I'll continue to self-fund. If I can't keep self-funding at some point, I'll do a crowdfunding round. If Teslabots came at you on a football field in waves of 1, then 2, and doubling each time, on which wave would you surrender? I would run away. I'm faster than they are. Will I consult with Sandy Munro on Podcar manufacturing? I wasn't planning on consulting with Sandy Munro. I don't think what I'm trying to do is that complicated. I think that Sandy Munro would be a great guy to talk to. I think the question would be how much would it cost to have Sandy Munro consult on it, and what value would that bring? I think what I'm trying to do is really, really simple. So the question would be, what value is he bringing to that conversation? I would love to have that conversation with him, but then the question is, I honestly don't know enough to know whether it would make sense to hire Sandy or his team. If I can get to where I think we can manufacture the Podcar for $2,000 or less, then I'm not sure what Sandy adds to the conversation. But absolutely, if I had a chance to talk to him, I would love to talk to him. I would ask him, what can you do for my company and how much would it cost? You got to make the decision, how much is it going to cost for that help? And, hopefully the engineering team I hire, I don't need his help, right? If we have good engineers, we do good. So. Warren Sama, when will Tesla reach 3 terawatt hours of sales? Hopefully before 2030. I think it's before 2030, but I don't know if it's a lot before 2030. My guess is 2028. Tesla reaches 3 terawatt hours of battery usage. And thank you again, Planeta Tierra, for your support. Would I like a Teslabot as my personal trainer? No, I don't want a personal trainer. I know what I need to do. I just don't do it. How much bigger will the pool of FSD beta users be once the button launches? Well, right now there's about 1,000 or 2,000 beta testers. I think it's going to go to 10,000, then 100,000 pretty quickly. And that's going to be a big, big deal. When will the chip shortage be behind us? I don't know. I don't understand the chip shortage. I don't know why it's taking so long. Amit, I already talked about ARC's base target price. Will anyone even have a job in 50? Oh, we covered that. Let's see what else we got. Sandy redesigned a golf cart or whatever. Let's see. Eric says, Warren, when you might think it's simple, but what you're trying to do is far from simple. Yes. And too many chefs, too many cooks spoil the broth. What I'm trying to do is simple, and I'm trying to keep it simple, and no simpler, and no simpler, and no simpler. And half the people I talk to are like, Warren, you need a suspension. Warren, you need brakes. Warren, you need this. Warren, you need that. Warren, you need a steering wheel. No. Fewer parts. Start off as simple as possible and add complexity as needed. How tight can a boring tunnel machine make a loop? If you don't know, please find out. I don't know how I'd find out. I don't think it would need to make a tight loop, and I don't think they want to make a tight loop. How will I know? This is a great question. How will I haven't named the Podcar company yet. I am thinking small EV company, but probably not that. Tyler asks, how will you know when it's the right time to sell your Tesla stock? That's a great question. So let me address this question. This is a question I'm going to go in some depth on. Okay, so if you watch my videos, I'm not saying this is a price target. I'm saying this is what I think the company is worth. This is what I think the stock price should be if Wall Street followed what I think is appropriate fundamental analysis. Now, the reality is Wall Street does not follow fundamental analysis. There's a lot of other things going on in Wall Street valuations for a stock. So right now, Tesla is massively undervalued in my mind. The stock price of Tesla is massively below what the stock really should be worth. I think Tesla should be trading at $2,500 a share or more right now. So as long as Tesla's stock price is well below what I think it's worth, I'm not selling. Now, I think there's a possibility that as Tesla grows and Tesla becomes the clear leader in the transportation industry and beyond, there's a moment when Wall Street and the media start to view Tesla as the champion. I'm not saying it will happen. I'm saying it can happen. The number one player, the big dog, the company that you've got to be with. And when that happens, we saw this happen with Cisco Systems in the past. We've seen this happen with some other companies. Then a flood of investment comes in, and it may become more, the stock price may go higher than what I think the company is actually worth, right? So if you go out to 2026, and I think Tesla should be trading at $25,000 a share, let's say, if the market overreacts and pushes it up to $40,000 a share, then I'm probably selling some. I'm probably not selling all of it because I still think it's going to go higher in the future. And the other question is, what am I going to invest the money in when I sell the stock? What other company is out there that I believe in that's worth investing in, that's available, that's publicly traded, where I can access it through some sort of venture capital thing? So there has to be some other company that's a better investment out there for me to sell Tesla stock. And right now I don't see another company to invest in other than maybe Beyond Meat, but I don't think that Beyond Meat is a better investment than Tesla. Aaron asks, when will they get a new factory, not Austin or Berlin? I think that they will announce new factories in 2022, middle of the year, maybe late in the year. When they'll build them, 2023, hopefully ready to produce by the end of 2023. Somebody on Reddit said both the Hawthorne Test Tunnel and Las Vegas Convention Center Loop have 90-degree turns that have radii around 500 feet. Yeah, I mean, I just think that they don't need tight turns. Will my small EV company feature pods that do not meet current crash test standards? Yes. I don't expect relaxed regulations. I intend for the vehicle to operate in countries other than the United States or in situations where U.S. safety standards don't apply. It's designed for poor countries. It's not designed for rich countries. Might work well in the Boring Company loop. That's something that, when I get to the point of we actually have a product that we can sell or operate, then I'm hoping to talk to Tesla and the Boring Company to see if we can try it there. Because their crash risk is much lower in a controlled environment. And the danger of a Podcart hitting a pedestrian is much less dangerous than the danger of the danger of a 1,000-pound Podcart hitting a pedestrian is much less damage than a 5,000-pound Tesla hitting a pedestrian. So I think there's a couple of particular advantages for it. Is Podcart easier and harder than Doghouse? So Podcart is actually easier than the Doghouse because the Doghouse idea was physically not feasible. What I learned in the Doghouse project was that fundamental physics prevents the doghouse idea from working. The idea was to build a quiet doghouse so that a dog could go place it in a lightning storm and the material in the doghouse would protect the dog from the sound. It turns out that it's almost impossible to make a doghouse at low cost that will absorb that kind of sound. You need more mass than you can put in the doghouse. And you could use active sound noise cancellation, but that's really expensive, so it wasn't possible. The Podcar, at least for now, looks possible to me. Todd Foster asks, should Tesla program Asimov's 3 laws of robotics into Teslabot? No, that is not the concept of the Teslabot. The Teslabot is using machine learning. If your vision for your bot is that you're going to handwrite code telling it what to do, then you're not doing machine learning, you're doing human written code. If you're doing machine learning, then the laws of robotics Asimov's laws of robotics don't necessarily fit in that concept. Will Tesla do a complete retool for Model 3 and Y at Fremont once Austin is fully ramped? I would expect to do some retooling at the model. First of all, I think they do retooling anyway. I think they've done retooling before. I think we will see significant changes in the Model 3 and Model Y lines in Fremont. Model 3 first and Model Y later. Definitely we're going to see that. I don't know what on-passive IT is. CM says, Warren, we have seen incredible sales every quarter. Do you think that someday the sales will go down? I mean, there's a matter of time before they sell less. Not in the foreseeable future, no. I think that we're going to see sales continue to rise through at least 2026, and I think through 2030. Yeah. Admiral Medjay says, Warren, where are you going to test drive your Podcar? Probably a parking lot somewhere, or South County. There's a park right across the street from my neighborhood that there's a good place to test drive it. We'll find a spot for it. It won't be. It's not going to be going very fast. We're going to limit the speed to like 15 miles an hour on the Alpha prototype. Will Teslabot have any major guideline like cars having a don't crash order? There's going to be some parameters. It's an optimization. Machine learning is an optimization, so it's going to be optimized to achieve certain things. And obviously, don't hurt people will be part of the optimization. But it's not so simple as you just program in Asimov's laws of robotics. It doesn't work like that. Damien says, Warren, some RVs sell for $2 million. For $2 million, what type and how good an RV could Tesla build? Tesla is not going to build RVs. The market for $2 million RVs is like less than 1,000 vehicles a year. Tesla is trying to build millions of vehicles a year, not 1,000 vehicles a year. It's building the cargo van or building semi creates the potential to build an RV off of that for companies that build RVs. But it doesn't make sense for Tesla to get into such a low volume, low value business. It's high profits for the people who make the RVs, but it's incredibly low volume. What do I believe could be the best case scenario for how far the Teslabots' intelligence could extend initially upon release? That's too big of a question. I think that the concept is that the Teslabot will learn tasks. It will learn how to move in our environment. It will learn how to pick up objects and move objects. It will hopefully learn how to listen. We will develop tasks for it to do, like put the roofing tile on the roof. If the Taliban got a Teslabot, would Elon go get it or would it self-destruct? I don't think that that's a serious question or worth considering. Would you buy FSD software if available for the Podcar? Yes. I mean, I'm planning to buy some kind of self-driving software for the Podcar. I would prefer it to be Tesla self-driving software. I think it might be too expensive for my goals for the Podcar, and so I'm hoping there will be other competing self-driving software out there to use. David Rucker says, will Model 3 get front and rear Giga casting or share the same castings as Model Y? I don't think the Model Y castings will fit Model 3. I think they will do something very similar to the Model Y castings for Model 3 eventually. Sam Worthington says, hi, Warren, out of curiosity, when did you start your channel on Tesla and Elon Musk? So I started the channel a long time ago, but I didn't really put a lot of time or effort into it. I made an occasional video about something I was interested in. A lot of my videos, if you go back into 2019 and before, my videos were typically about criminal justice. I'm a criminal defense lawyer. Fair DUI is my book about traffic stops and how to keep yourself safe in a traffic stop. There's a link in the description below. And 2019, I want to say it was September 2019, I had been getting excited more and more about SpaceX and Tesla, and I made a video about Starship. And that video did really well. I'm like, oh, that was cool. Well, let me make another video. So it was around 2019, like September 2019, when I started making this change to the channel and started becoming basically developing into a full-time YouTuber. Ori says, do I think we'll see any visual design changes in the 4680 Model Y or the same car with different batteries and specs only? I think externally the Model Y will be the same. Like looking at it from the outside, it'll be the same. Looking at it for the interior, for the passengers, it will be the same. I think the key difference is the weight. It's going to weigh a lot less, about 500 pounds less. That's not just me, that's limiting factor. My favorite other channel on YouTube. Klaus Wickman says, I need to build a new garage as the old one is getting dangerous. Where the hell can I get SM info on the European version of the Cybertruck size? I don't think you're going to see a European version of Cybertruck for at least 5 years. So I wouldn't worry about that. I think that you're probably going to get the US version, US size of Cybertruck. So I would rely on that, which is roughly the size of a Ford F-150 crew cab with a 5.5 foot bed, even though Cybertruck has a 6.5 foot bed. Mumford says, can the Cybertruck accommodate a fifth wheel tow hitch? I believe that we'll be able to do fifth wheel. Fifth wheel is a kind of RV where the front of the RV sits in the bed of the truck rather than being towed from behind the truck. Does Cybertruck need a garage? No, it does not. I think even Elon actually said it doesn't need a garage. Do I think Elon has a chip factory in stealth mode? I don't think so, but I wouldn't rule it out. How can Tesla and others prevent to use autonomous cars to be suicide bombers? I don't really understand that question, Jose. I mean, the cars are designed not to crash. So you're not going to be able to crash a vehicle into something. If somebody wants to put bomb in the trunk of the car, whether it's got an autonomous car or not, they're going to be able to do it. Hi, Klaus. Is my Podcar 4 wheels or 3? It is a 4-wheeled vehicle. I believe that using regular car tires is better for the long-term value of the car than 3 wheels using motorcycle tires. Motorcycle tires don't last as long. I think that the chassis will hold up better with 4 wheels than it would with 3 wheels. I think there's a lot of reasons why 4 wheels is better. I think it'll be safer on 4 wheels than it would be on 3 wheels. Looking at questions here. All right, let's see. Oh, thank you, Klaus, for your support. Who am I going to interview next? I have an interview planned with Ross Gerber. September 23rd. I'd have to look at my calendar for that. I do have some interviews planned. How far out do you believe a Neuralink brain-computer interface connected to a car produced by Elon is? I think Neuralink connected to a car is more than 10 years away. I don't think that's an important use case. I don't think there's a reason why having Neuralink connected to a car is particularly valuable. The car is a self-driving car. The Neuralink is used for a lot of things, but you don't need high bandwidth to communicate with your car. Will supercharger stations increase the build rate because of shared vehicles of other EVs? No, supercharger stations will increase their build rate because Elon wants to increase the build rate of supercharger stations. Can I get a Yolk steering wheel upgrade on my Tesla car? I don't think so. But I will be getting the Plaid X in April if I get it, and that will have the Yolk, and I'll be getting the Cybertruck after that, and that will have the Yolk probably. What have I been most surprised or wrong about regarding Tesla? That's a good question. I think we tend to get overly optimistic. I think a lot of us in the Tesla, YouTuber, Twitter community got ahead of ourselves and thinking what was going to happen at the Plaid event, and we didn't get nearly as much as we thought. So I was probably most wrong in thinking that we were going to get more exciting stuff coming out of the Plaid event. Just looking at what questions everybody has. I think. All right, we're an hour and 40 minutes in. AI bots to drive regular semis. The semi will drive itself. The purpose of the bot is not to drive a vehicle. The purpose of the bot is to do other things. Will you be able to teleoperate your Tesla bot and make it do shopping, etc. for you? I think the idea is that you tell the bot, whether by phone or communication or in person, please go do the shopping for me. Here's what I need. And the bot will be able to communicate with you on the way. Hey, they don't have the kind of cheese you asked for. Is there a different kind of cheese you want me to get? Here's what's available. But teleoperate, you're not going to teleoperate it. You're going to tell it to go do the shopping for you. And it's going to go to the store and come back, and you're not going to have to talk to it at all. If I could interview Elon, what would you ask him? I have a video in my channel, questions for Elon. I think I have 2 videos in my channel, questions for Elon. So check my channel to see what questions I would ask him. There's a lot. I can't answer that in a short chat. Damien says, Warren, when will you get a Tesla Model X? My delivery is scheduled for April. For those who don't know, I paid $100 for deposit, non-refundable deposit on a Plaid Model X. So I think it's a less than 50% chance I go through with the purchase. But if I do go through the purchase, it will probably be in April. On your latest trip, how long did you stay at the Supercharger and how many miles of range did it give? So the first Supercharger, was already pretty full. I mean, we started at 95%. I drove 40 miles, so we didn't use that much charge. So I think I only charged for 10 minutes or so at the first supercharger. I remember I went into Wawa and got like like an egg croissant sandwich or something. And then the second supercharger on the way home was down to 11%. I charged up to 70%. And I would say that was about 20 minutes or a half hour. I think it was more than 20 minutes. I think it was 20 minutes would give me enough to get back to Brian's house to bring him back his car. But I think I ended up doing 25 minutes to get it up to 70% just to be a little safe on that. Do I think that ChargePoint will give Tesla competition with charging stations? I sure hope so. More charging stations is better. Go, go, go. Build more. Will Neuralink make a copy of your brain to go into the robot? I think that Neuralink may be able to upload something similar to your consciousness. Whether you would put it in a bot or not is another question. And why would you only put it into one bot? Why wouldn't you put it into more than one bots? What about if there was more than one of you? Maybe it could be going to 1,000 bots. Have I ever met Elon in the past? No. I saw him reasonably close up at the Plaid event. That's the closest I've gotten to him. I don't expect to meet him. I met Drew Baglino and Franz von Holzhausen. I met Martin Vieca. Will you be able to see what the Tesla bot sees? I think that that's certainly possible that the bot will have some sort of wireless communication and you can check the bot's cameras if you want. I don't see why that would be difficult. It might be more that you could see like a 3D scenario of the bot. You can see the whole 3D projection rather than just one camera because there's multiple cameras. Will Tesla make a Cybertruck Starship variant with a stretched over dialaminar float exoskeleton fabricated? I don't think so. If you didn't have a house, would you still buy a Tesla? Yes. All right. But an hour and 45 minutes in. So I want to thank everyone for watching. I'm experiencing a little bit of back pain, which I experienced before I started. I'm a little tired today. I did this fasting diet yesterday, and I think I'm a little affected by it. Wasn't affected by it yesterday, but I'm affected by it today. So I'm going to wrap up now instead of going 2 hours or more as I usually do. I want to thank everyone for watching. Thanks to the Vasa Law Firm in Sweden and all my Patreon supporters for helping this channel grow. Please support this channel on Patreon. There's links to Patreon in the description below. You can join the channel on the description below. There's a link to that. Check out my book, Fair DUI. There's a link to that in the description below. Check out the t-shirts and the other merch. There's a link to the t-shirt at the top of the chat. And elonbits.com for any of my t-shirts or the stainless steel water bottle. And thank you so much for watching. I'm done. Thanks, everyone.